warm climate here from Claremont, Florida, and I see a big need to do a video on buying classic cars. I'm seeing people making a lot of mistakes, probably the worst being rust. So I wanted to bring people over. I was fortunate enough to get a property with a fairly nice shop on it. And I thought I could make a few little videos here that might help some people. Today, we're going to talk about buying a classic car. Now, I have two examples here, and they are a Porsche 914 and a Porsche 911. What we're going to talk about applies to any car that's still. The 911 is an all original car. Original means original paint, original interior, everything original. It has not been restored. The 914 is a modified car. It has fender flares. It has a body kit on it. This was a California racer. So the first thing we want to talk about here is the condition of the cars. Where I'm seeing a lot of problems that my friends are having that I follow on the car forums is what I call the number 4 car. So let's look at this rating system. A number 5 is a just junker parts car. A number 4 is a rust bucket. A number 3 is a drivable car. And 3 has a very wide range. A number 3 is mechanically and structurally a sound car, but can look anywhere from very ratty to an extremely clean car. Your number 2, number 1 cars are basically a museum piece, trailer queens. We're really not going to get into that. It's sort of a different ball game. And for most of us, we're kind of looking at the number 3 class cars. But what's been happening is the number 4s are advertised as rust-free originals, and they simply are not. Very few cars are original. Once a car is only original once you restore it, it is not original. Once you repaint it, it is not original. Now, it can be restored as original, but that does not make it an original car. So let's take a look at my chart. And this, for someone looking for a classic car, you're probably going to pick up a car that has some type of issue. They're older cars. If they're in extremely fine condition, they're probably going to be very expensive. And most of us hobbyists want to bring one home, do some basic repairs, bring the car up to a nice looking, nice drivable condition. Most of us can handle mechanical issues. We can handle interior issues, electrical issues. But when it comes to paint and body, we're in a whole different ballgame. I've been in this hobby a very long time, and I can tell you that paint and body work is just always a losing proposition. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of expense, and the people that really know what they're doing are booked up over a year. So if you need body work done, a good body man is going to be extremely hard to find, and he's going to probably have to get you on a waiting list. The beauty of a refrigerator magnet is they do not scratch paint. If it's a weak magnet, if the magnet doesn't hold on, there's probably Bondo. Another tool I like to bring is a little battery, 12-volt battery tester that goes to 14 volts. You can do continuity checks with it. You can see if the alternator's putting out. Most classic cars have a bad battery in them. You can make sure the battery has got some juice in it. Another tool I like to bring, a mirror on a stick to look around in some areas. Now, one of my favorite tools is the rare earth magnet on a stick. You got to be careful with these though, because the magnet is very powerful and it will scratch paint. However, with a rare earth magnet, you can tell anywhere that there's Bondo and how thick the Bondo is, just kind of by the feel, by the magnetic attraction. This particular car I purchased, I got it for $4,000. I didn't hesitate to buy it because I could not find any areas of Bondo on the car or any areas of corrosion. This was a California racer. Being a California racer, the car is modified. Having been modified, I devalued the car somewhat, which was fine by me because I could pick up a very nice, solid car, rust-free. And for $4,000, it was quite a buy. The interior is in excellent condition because the car was stored indoors. It did not sit out in the sun or the weather. So the body is in virtually perfect condition. Now, the car does have a flare kit on it. These flares are fiberglass. So, as we look at the rare earth magnet, we can see it does not stick to the fender flares. There's nothing wrong with fiberglass. Steel flares would have been much better. This car was put together to look cool on the track, but was not intended to be a show car. Looking under the hood, now being a rear engine car, the front is the trunk, but we can see that there is absolutely no rust or corrosion in the car. Now, what's gonna trick a lot of people buying cars though, is if we get past, basically the Bondo in the paint is an indicator of poor bodywork. Bondo is not a structural substance. It is a filler. It's used basically just to smooth the body out with skim coats. However, it's easy to work with, and it tends to get used to actually make body parts. The Bondo cannot take any pressure. It cannot stand up to anything. So when you use Bondo, the car is going to end up cracking later. However, the body work can be done to make the car look very impressive. So if we are finding Bondo in the body, personally, I walk away because I just realized that once you get into the car, you're gonna find all kind of issues where the car was wrecked, where it was corroded, and the problems are only gonna be far worse than you can even imagine. And that's before you even get under the car. Of course, once you get under the car, on a car like this, it has a unitized body and it has just barely enough metal. Any corrosion, and this 914 is just structurally not going to be a sound car. A 911 has a bit more metal to it. It's a higher quality build. However, same thing, it is a unitized body, and once they start to rust, the body work is extremely difficult and extremely expensive. Now, if you're buying a classic car, I would highly recommend putting it up on a lift and checking out under the car. I'm going to jack this up quickly so we can take a look under here. Now, you're gonna see, of course, some oil leaks are fairly common, but what we really want to look for is corrosion. The trailing arms are solid here, but on these type of car, typically the structural elements become very problematic. These areas get rusty and they support the entire car. Also, when you have a car without a roof, the underlying structure gets even more important. So looking under here, you can see there's no corrosion. I did have to rebuild the motor on this car. This particular motor is a Type 4 motor. It was pretty easy and not very expensive to rebuild. Again, mechanical issues are way easier to deal with than body issues. Mechanical issues can be a pain. You can see I've got a leaky tranny here. I do have another transmission I'm going to put in this car. However, again, mechanical issues to me just aren't that big a problem. It's structural issues, it's rust, it's corrosion. That's what you want to look at. Now, getting up under here, the car has what's called a pan, and pans are the water's gonna settle on the pan and rust through. This pan is virtually perfect. Holes in the pan are not good, but pans are not too difficult to replace. A little rust in a pan can be dealt with. It's really areas where your structural and support components are. In this particular car, we have what we call them the longs, which is a long beam that has to run underneath the car, and it has to support the car. On this unibody, this support structure is not an extremely thick metal, so once it starts to corrode, there's just basically nothing really holding the car together. So, in summary, I think one of the biggest issues I'm seeing is what I would call number 4 cars, which are essentially cars, and they may even look pretty good, that have a lot of corrosion in them. Number 4s are just, you simply can't really restore them at any kind of a reasonable cost. You're really better off. It's way far less expensive to find an example of the car with a better body. Sacrifice things like engine, transmission, mechanicals. Those are areas, but on the body, you just can't get a body fixed up. Now, there's a lot of guys out there that are good body men, know what they're doing, but for the average garage mechanic, when you start getting into body work, you're just simply gonna be in over your head. You're gonna have a car sitting around, it's gonna be in a shop for years, or it's gonna sit in your property for years. You're gonna just poke at it, throw money at it. And by the time you're done with it, you're gonna lose most of what you invested anyhow, and you're never really gonna have a car to enjoy anyhow. So, my recommendation, when you buy a car, buy the body. Go for a rust-free body. I always look for rust-free cars, and surprisingly enough, I've had a lot of good luck out west. This particular car was found in Florida. Now, to me, that's pretty unusual. Eastern cars are very rust-prone. You either get salt air in coastal areas, you get chlorides from snow. There's just East Coast cars get a lot of issues. Now, Western cars get a lot of sun damage, and sun is also very aggressive. It will eat the paint off. It'll destroy the interior. However, the bodies tend to be a bit more solid on Western cars. So I'm hoping that everyone will be a little bit more careful now when they're out there trying to buy a classic car, and will pay a lot of attention to the rust. I'm going to do some more videos on this subject, and definitely let me know if you have any questions of interest, because I can use those for future videos. Signing out.